Rolling up in blacked out cars, talking like they own the stars. Smiling for the camera flash, hands in your pocket, counting cash. Trust us this time, they'll stay. Same old trick in a brand new script. Waving papers, selling hope. Fine print line is a velvet rope. Blue suits, black hearts, saying we feel your pain from the country club bar. Big speed, fake tears. Every 4 years they remember we're here. They're saving the world on a t-shirt sign while they're sipping that vintage red on your dime. Blue suits, black hearts. They love the power more than the people they mark. Every problem, they've got plans. Step 1, take more from your hands. Step 2, pick a team to blame. Step 3, walk off with the game. Talking justice, talking care. Till you ask, hey, why's my street bare? They built mansions on those dreams, then called you cruel when you asked what it meant. Blue suits, black hearts, saying we feel your pain from the country club bar. Big speed, fake tears. Every 4 years they remember we're here. They're saving the world on a t-shirt sign while they're sipping that vintage red on your dime. Blue suits, black hearts. They love the power more than the people they mark. Raise your hand if you're tired of the show. Same old play in a thrift store coat. They talk like saints, vote like sharks, writing your life with invisible marks. Blue suits, black hearts, saying we feel your pain from the country club bar. Big speed, fake tears. Every 4 years they remember.
Hey, welcome tonight to California Free Radio, CFR, where we tell you what's really going on behind the blue curtain here in California. We have not given up on California yet. Remember how we talked about how the governor's race had the potential of getting 2 Republicans in the, we'll call it the runoff, because we have a top 2 primary here in California. And we're thinking Chad Bianco and Steve Hilton would be the 2 guys that would do that. Well, this last week, Steve Hilton was endorsed by none other than Donald Trump. And that's one of those things where Donald Trump gets people motivated to get out and vote. And that's what we need to happen. We need Republicans to show up in June and vote in the primary. And obviously, we're going to need them in November as well. But if we don't show up, they will take the election. They will steal the election. They will cheat and do whatever is necessary to win this election. We have to do like we did in 2024. We have to beat the cheat. We have to make it too big to cheat. And that's why we need every single voter out there. Now, does it matter that Trump has endorsed Hilton? I think it'll help. I think it'll help get the votes out. Will it make it so that Hilton takes more Republican votes than Bianco and we get a Democrat and a Republican in the runoff? It's hard to play those games. The polls right now are frankly, they're so far in advance, they're not worthy of it. Most of the polls do not poll actual likely voters. They have some mix of maybe registered voters, but are they likely to vote or not? Most pollsters are liberal, and they're going to put their thumb on the scale by determining what the sample is. But clearly, Bianco and Hilton are leading in almost every poll. You have Swalwell coming up there. Swalwell's the guy who, was bang banging the Chinese spy Fang Fang. And he's been endorsed now by none other than the California Teachers Association. And ironically, for somebody who was out there yelling to release the Epstein files and what's the DOJ hiding and why isn't the FBI doing that, when it comes to the FBI's files on him and sleeping with the Chinese spy, the little honey pie, the honey trap, as they call it. Oh, he doesn't want those. He doesn't want those released. No, I can't release those. He's put a cease and desist letter into the DOJ, like they care what he and his attorney think or say. I don't think so. But he's going to do every legal move he knows how to try and hide the fact that he was sleeping with Fang Fang, and who is a Chinese spy for the CCP. So he's the lead of the characters of 9. By the way, there are going to be over 40 some odd candidates on your governor's race on the ballot for the primary. Only top 2 go to November, and there are probably 8 pretty even Democrat candidates that are running. They either hold statewide office or a congressional seat. They're not nobodies. There's 8 people, I'll call them nobodies, but they're legitimate candidates vying for this seat, and they're raising real money to run. You know that what's going to happen is the unions are going to put their thumb on the scale, though. But the big news still is Trump has endorsed Steve Hilton. And ironically, the California Republican Assembly, the oldest volunteer Republican organization in the state, CRA it's known as, and this is just a Republican group. It has nothing to do with the state assembly. The California Republican Assembly is considered the oldest Republican volunteer organization in the state, and they've endorsed Chad Bianco. So you've got this duality going between these 2 gubernatorial candidates, and it's very, very likely that we're going to have those 2 candidates be the top 2 to go to November, which is just great, because then obviously we're guaranteeing that we're going to have a Republican governor come 2027, January. But that's the good news. The important thing is that we do need to make sure that we get out to vote. So I've got on tonight a friend of mine that I've known for probably 30 years as our guest. His name is Brian Johnston, and he is the Western Director of the National Right to Life Committee, and he's chairman of the California Pro-Life Council. He's written books. He's a lecturer. He's a public advocate. He's in Sacramento. He really is tuned in to what's going on in Sacramento, and he's there sticking up for us, conservative voices, those that are pro-life, those that are the conservative, pro-family, and pro-life. People sit there and say, the abortion issue is not an issue. Well, we'll let Brian speak to that, but I'll tell you, if I only know one thing about a candidate and I know that he's pro-life, that's good enough. That'll tell me a lot about the candidate.
Yeah.
If he's not pro-life, it's not. And Brian, you're live now.
Okay.
So feel free to join in. I think we're still having technical difficulties and we're not able to get you on video.
Oh, that's probably better. I don't have to comb my hair. And you really nailed it there, Scott. We've talked about this. One of the things, and you're not the only political activist who tells me if someone's pro-life, it tells me everything I need to know. There's a reason for that. And that's because Western civilization, not just our founding, but Western civilization is built on natural law, what is called by our founders the laws of nature and of nature's God. That was the predicate for our founding, but it was the predicate for all just societies, that there is somebody who designed this. I'm not him. So whoever designed this makes the real rules, the moral rules of the universe. That's called the theory of natural law. And that's at stake every day in this domed building here in Sacramento and the domed building in Washington and every single one across the nation. Laws are made. If they're not based in natural law, and maybe in a little bit we'll talk about Mr. Newsom and Mrs. Newsom. I don't think she likes the Mrs. part, but it reveals a lot about our political opponents. They do not believe in natural law. They do not believe in the laws of nature and of nature's God. And if they don't, they're going to come up with some really bad ideas. They'll just come up with whatever they feel. And they're their own gods. And again, if you're a Christian, if you've read the scriptures, you know that is the bottom line. Either there is a God or you can be your own God. They have fallen on that other side. So
Yeah. I like it. I think it was J.D. Vance, but several politicians have said there is a God and I'm not him.
that's
I know,
right. That's
Charlie
why-
Kirk used to say that as well. It's like, yeah, I'm not him.
And that's if we don't start there. That's so good. If that's not your stuff, if you aren't looking for what's
I know.
true, yeah. Go ahead.
We're going down a rabbit hole here, but
Okay.
you
Go
know,
ahead. It's-
Rush Limbaugh used to sit there and have all of these, I'll say in quotes, quote conservatives that would sit there and tell him, why can't we keep these pro-lifers quiet? Why can't we do this? And Rush would sit there and just flat out tell him, I said, you sit there and you don't want to sit there and talk about the abortion issue, but without pro-lifers, there would be no Republican Party.
Yeah.
It's just a fact. Conservatives and pro-life conservatives in particular make up the backbone and the majority of the people that are part of the Republican Party. Now, it may not be an issue that the people are going to be campaigning on, but it reminds me of a fact that even Rush brought up, but I know Family Resource Council, Gary Bauer, and several others have brought up the fact that they'd sit there and they give congressmen ratings on how they vote. And these economic ratings would come out, who's against taxes, who's, to cut spending, everything else. And all of these people that would sit there and campaign on the whole concept of being fiscal conservatives, but social liberals, right?
Right.
You compare their votes, and this is by, I'm forgetting the think tank that's there, but it's one that's based totally on economics. They don't care about the pro-life issue. But they did a comparison. And what they found is that those that would declare themselves as pro-life, their ranking, according to them, was in the 95 percentile.
Yeah.
Whereas those others that were not pro-life, most of them fell into that category of, the Republicans anyway, of I'm a social liberal, but I'm a fiscal conservative. Their average was only about, it was less than 80%. It was like 78%.
Yeah.
And they really weren't fiscal conservatives like pro-lifers were. So like we started out, if you know somebody's pro-life, that tells you a lot about what kind of a man they are and where they're going to stand on a lot of the other issues, including taxes.
Yeah. Also,
But-
what kind of woman?
So-
which-
Go ahead.
No, what kind of man or woman they are, because we judge people by the content of their character and not the color of their skin or their plumbing. And there's a real strong move now culturally. So we need women doing this. Women are the ones that must do it. And it's all based on plumbing. No, I want to know. I'll be honest with you. If you had a solid, conservative, pro-life woman running for president, I'd be willing to vote for her. And I think it's important that we understand that ideas have consequences and laws are very simple. They're ideas that are enforced. So if you don't have any basis for your ideas, if you're a nihilist and say, God or God's far away, none of this impacts me, then you're going to come up with some crazy ideas. And that's exactly what California Democrats have done to us. And
Crazy ideas for sure. And the reality of it is they don't know right from wrong. And so one of the things that we're going to dive into right now is the fraud issues that are coming up.
Yeah.
They don't have, face it, if they can't respect life, how do you expect them to respect right and wrong when it comes to dollars and cents, right?
That's right.
If all of a sudden, hey, it's okay to kill a baby, now you're going to sit there and say, hey, if I overpay for this subject or, this hospice care, for example, and hey, these hospice care people have been big donors to my campaign and to the Democratic Party, what's a few million here or there? I mean, sure, I might be able to find a better deal someplace else, but this guy's here and he's qualified and I'm paying him and he's supporting me in return. Win-win, right?
That's how they
But-
play.
But what's going on? Yeah, it's very expensive money laundering when you think about it. You're giving them $100 and the Democratic Party and the candidates are getting $1 out of it. That's not very efficient money laundering, but it's still money laundering.
And it keeps
Okay.
them in power. It's about power.
So, we saw fraud in Minnesota and ironically, there were some Democrats that were embarrassed about it, but for the most part, Governor, Tampon Tim, he basically blamed Trump for the fraud. And some of that, I have to admit, I don't blame Trump for it, but the way that the bureaucracy is set up, if the federal government's giving the state of Minnesota or the state of California, let's say the state of California, $100 million to do something, and they get $20 million out of that, right? They get 20% or whatever the number is of every dollar that they administer. And the feds don't want to set up a bureaucracy to administer it. They leave it up to the states. So the states administer it. Well, what incentive is there for the state to cut costs?
Yeah.
Because then it's their 20% or
It's
30 or
free
40,
money,
whatever.
free
it
money,
is.
yeah.
So, the incentives are set up incorrectly. Trump actually came out and said that if we could stop the Medicare fraud, I don't know that he limited it to Medicare, but if we could stop the fraud in blue states only, we could balance our budget today.
Well,
that.
you're exactly right. And referring to blue states only, if it only focuses on California, California itself, the fraud is bigger than the you mentioned to me in your article there that the fraud in California is greater than 100 different countries' total budgets. And what is cool about this and what he has set up, President Trump has put J.D. Vance in charge of fraud investigation and told him start in California. Why is that important? Because the likely Democrat nominee for president is a kooky Democrat, space age, new ager, Gavin Newsom, and he is the one that's authorized this fraud. And now his potential opponent in 28 for president is going to investigate and look under every rock in California because they're using the states. The fraudsters are using the states as funnels for their fraud. And as we saw in Wisconsin, it was real easy if you have a fraudster as governor.
Oh, sorry about that.
Am I still there?
Yeah, I
I'm
cut your
still-
audio off. I was trying to get rid of our square that says BJ and just have your photo up there,
Oh, okay.
but
Well-
that wasn't working. I'll have to try something else.
That's all right. As long as you, I've been called a lot of things.
There we go.
Just don't call me late for dinner. So
Yeah, exactly. So you can see that diagram that you're talking about. I put it up on the screen.
Yeah.
It has California fraud, which is in red,
Yeah.
and then the total gross domestic product of, in the first one, the orange one there is Qatar, and then the second one is Ukraine. So
wow.
here we are, two significantly. We're not talking about dinky little countries.
No.
Although Qatar is not that big, it has a
But it's
lot of money.
oil rich.
Yeah, right. It's oil rich. So their entire GDP is smaller than the fraud in California alone.
Yeah.
So here's a quote from Bill Asali. Bill Asali is the U.S. attorney for Southern California.
Yeah.
And he
Former
said,
assemblyman, great guy.
former assemblyman, and yeah, he had the guts to stand up against the Democrats, even if it meant censoring him
Yeah.
and taking him off all of his committees. I really like Bill Asali.
Yeah.
So he goes, there's so much fraud happening in California that he believes he could never have enough prosecutors to tackle it all.
Wow. That's exactly
So,
right. You know, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing one of the frustrations, I'll be perfectly honest with you, because I kind of liked her, was our attorney general was well-meaning, but she could not get prosecutors under her to drop the hammer on the criminals. She couldn't, and getting good prosecutors is critically important. And we need to know and trust in good legislators and then good lawyers and good prosecutors so that we can get justice. So it's going to be
who are you referring to?
Our friend from Florida, our pretty
Pam Bondi,
Yeah.
who got Christy Nome out to pasture somewhere.
Well, her problems were different than Christy Nome. I think
but she was dealt with the same way. She didn't get fired, but she was put someplace else in the administration.
Well, was she? I think she was gone into private practice. But here's the bottom line. This is what Bill Asali is saying. Bill Asali is saying you need prosecutors that will prosecute. And what's happened across our nation, Democrat prosecutors in counties in California, but across the nation, they will not enforce the law. So if you're a Democrat,
wait a second. That depends on which law it is, right? Whether they like it or not.
Or whether they like you. It's about your ideology. If you're here illegally, they're going to let you off the hook. It's bizarre. And so we have and as you know, bail reform is, there's no bail. Lock them up and then let them go. And if they're guilty, no, you lock them up, you bring them to trial. And if they're guilty, you make sure they serve. But that has not been happening. The law is not being followed. We live in a lawless culture, and the Democrat Party has led in lawlessness. So
it's kind of like the Civil War. They decide which laws they want to follow and which ones they don't want to follow.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous that the Democrats just enforce what they want to enforce. That's all it is to it.
Yeah, and that's why it gets back to natural law. And I think everybody should. Anybody who takes political science, if you have political science, that's nice. But if you didn't take political philosophy, then you're just dealing with the Lego toys of government. You don't understand what the predicate of our government is. We have to have principles that our laws are based in. And the Democrats have said, no, we can make up the principle. You wake up tomorrow and you feel like you're a woman, then Scott, you're a woman. You can go down and tell people you're a woman, go use the women's bathroom. That's how they feel. They are
right. They don't have any ideology or foundation. So it's like whatever feels good, whatever gets them the most votes, whatever gives them the most campaign contributions or TV time. And hey, if a girl wants to, use the boys' bathroom, great, or the other way around is more likely the case.
Yeah, exactly. In other words, you and I understand, hey, I went to high school. You went to high school. I understand. Yeah, it's more likely boys that want to sneak into the girls' locker room. That's just reality. You have to understand nature. God designed men and women differently. And thankfully, women by nature want to be more demure, want to be more modest. Why are we allowing this madness? Because they've ignored how God has designed humanity. And that design is a self-evident truth. That design, if you want to know what's true, it's revealed in nature. And so that goes back not just to our founders, back to Romans 1. God has revealed his invisible character and nature through his visible creation so that they are without excuse. Everybody knows that God has designed things a certain way, but if you don't want to follow it, then you're going to go in some very weird directions, and that's why you're going to get judged. If you're not judged in this life, you're going to get judged in the next. God wants to straighten you out. That's the reason we have laws, is to keep, it's not just the victims, it's to keep the perpetrators from marching into hell. And I can tell you, there's quite a few. I used to visit jails. There's quite a few people who've been arrested and very glad that they were. They understood that what they were doing was wrong, and they were glad of the opportunity to be penitent and to quit in those habits. But if you don't hold them accountable, if your parents didn't spank you when you ran out in the street, if they didn't correct you, you'd be dead. Because
Yeah, exactly. Well, look at what John Adams said. He basically said that our laws, our Constitution, our government is set up for a moral people, and it is not. It's insufficient for anything less.
yeah,
So, it's one of those things that if we don't have something that guides ourselves anyway, and that we're naturally going to follow the law because we observe our faith um, or God's natural laws, then basically you're going to end up with everybody in jail because people won't have that as their own moral guideline. So let's get back to fraud here. So,
yeah.
do you have a prediction? We got a lot of things. I've got a picture of Newsom on there, and you
I
can see
like
the
it.
headlines.
Laser
There's
eye at Newsom.
there's going to be there are people out there. Chris, I'm going to look it up here. Chris Rufio, I'm getting his name. He's on X. He's done absolutely stellar work in doing research and uncovering a lot of this fraud that's coming up.
Yeah,
And Rufo is his name. And one of the things he's come up with is this what he's referring to as Newsom's $30 billion fraud magnet.
yeah,
People, I mean, in some ways, it's so overwhelming. There's so much fraud going on. It's kind of like, where do you start? Like Bill Asali, our U.S. attorney, said, he doesn't have enough prosecutors to go after everything.
yeah.
So he's got to go after the big pictures. So two things. One is I'm glad JD Vance is in charge, call him the fraud czar. And I'm glad he's starting on California and Governor Newsom.
Yes.
Newsom is a fraud and he doesn't care. He's inept. It used to be that whichever party was in charge, one of the things that party had to do was the old saying goes, you had to make the trains run on time.
Yeah.
You had the mechanisms of government had to work, or the people would throw you out and get the other party in because you couldn't make the trains run on time. What's ironic about our state, it's such a lopsided one-party state that the trains don't run on time. And if you look at the high-speed rail, we don't even have a train or tracks. We just spend lots and lots of money on nothing.
Talk.
But the fraud is so rampant, the trains don't run on time, the potholes aren't filled, the gas prices are extremely high, and they're worried about what car you've got. They're talking about putting vehicle miles traveled taxes on you. I mean, it's just crazy. How come we haven't had a revolution here in
Well,
California?
yeah, I think we have. Our problem is the media. And I will, if you'll indulge me, Scott, we've talked about it. The people who should know this best, as was the case at our founding, were people who understood that there is a God. So those are Christians. And they saw what was wrong and they were willing to take action. What's happened now, I hate to say this, but there's quite a few Christian churches, mega churches. They just want to be Christian clubs and hang out. They want you to feel good. Oh, come here to feel good. That's not the reason I go to church, to feel good. I go to church to worship the living God and to be challenged, to be changed. I still have to be changed. And that's why I go to church. I need to learn more about God and who he is. But now it's become fashionable, and sadly the media and even social media has made getting entertainment, even if it's Christian entertainment, the top priority. So Christians have left the responsibility to understand and to speak the truth. We have an obligation to understand what's going on, and that takes some effort, and then to speak truth to what is going on. And you may not be popular, but it's well worth it because life is short. You want to make sure you do the right thing with your short life. And right now in California, there's lots to be done, as Bill Saley's saying. There is so much to be done. So even in your own community, I recommend find out who's running for school board. California Pro-Life, we ask people to pay attention to your school boards, not just Congress, not just the presidency, not just the governorship. At election time, hopefully we will have 2 Republican nominees. That means Republican nominees all the way down the ballot are going to have voter turnout. But you have to be willing. Oh, thank you for putting that up too, because I think I want to touch on state employees. You have to be willing to make a difference. I have found something, Scott, and I won't mention any names, but people that you and I know, Republicans, and their greatest goal was to get a job as a staffer for a state legislator or a congressman. You know why? It's a cool job. They're Republicans. It also pays very, very well. And that's the opposite of how the founders viewed government. You don't want to get a job for the government because it pays so well. And yet that has lured many well-meaning people where they become part of the machine. It's called statism, where if I can get a job at the state, then I am sitting pretty. Because as you know, Scott, real good retirement benefits. Really,
Well,
there's-
you know, as an architect, I deal with planning departments and building departments in the local cities all the time.
yeah,
And it used to be that the kind of people that would go and get the job at the building department to be a plan checker or whatever, you know, they were guys that would have a tough time making it in the private sector, um, and not always, but a lot of times, or B, they just want that steady income. And it used to be that that guy got paid less than the guy in the private sector.
yeah.
But the retirement benefits were good and it was hard to get fired. So you kind of had this assurance that you were always going to have a job. Of course, building and construction go up and down, and sometimes you need 10 plan checkers, sometimes you only need 2. What do they do? Do they lay them off, or do they just have you sit home on your butt and still get a paycheck? But even putting that aside, it used to be you got paid less, but the benefits and the job, assuredness, were made. That's what made up for it. That's not the case anymore. Right now, if you were to get a job at the city as a plan checker, you get paid nearly twice as much as that same engineering qualified guy working for a private firm,
Yeah.
especially right out of school. And then these guys, the retirement is so lucrative. They have what's called this. This gets into part of the problem that you see with the chart up there on the screen with
Yeah.
the number of state employees, because every state employee is on a CalPERS retirement system, and the retirement system is set up where you and I we'd put money into a 401k or whatever, an IRA, and it would build up. And sometimes the market would do well, you make more money. Sometimes it doesn't do so well, you don't make as much money. Sometimes you even lose money. But you had all the market risks. And then when you decide that there's enough money in your retirement account that you can retire, you retire. It could be that, you're spending all that money just keeping your family afloat, and you may not have a lot of retirement. In the case of CalPERS and state and federal or state and city employees, it's a guaranteed benefit. So it doesn't matter what the market does. They basically promise you a certain percentage of your salary in perpetuity. And the way that it works is they call it, let's say for public safety, for fire and police, they have what's called a 3 at 50. So you get 3% of your salary times the number of years. So let's say you started at age 20 right out of the academy and as a
Yeah.
police officer, and now you're 50, you've been there 30 years. So you get 90% of your best year's salary,
Oh, man.
right? So
Wow.
that means chances are it's your last year. Now they got rid of all of the working overtime and all this stuff to kind of artificially inflate it. It's just your last year's salary now. But 3% of that times 30 years, 90%, and you don't have to do any work for it. You're paying, they're retiring at 50, they live till they're 80, so they work for 30 years for the city, and you pay them, $20 an hour when they start, and when they finish, they're making $50 an hour. But in retirement, they're making basically $45 an hour for the rest of their lives, which is generally another 30 years. So you're paying them more for not working than you ever paid them for actually working.
Yep.
And that's the way it is with all employees. Now, non-safety, public safety employees have a 2.25%, 2% or 2.5%, depending on which system you're in. The new hires are at 2%, and it's 2% at 60 or 2% at 62. So you can't retire before 60, but it's pretty luxurious if in the private sector you're able to retire at 60. It's because you've done well in your career.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so here they are, they retire at 60, and they get, at age 60, if they started at age 20, 40 years times their 2% or 2.5%, they're getting 100% of their salary at age 60 for the rest of their lives, which in their case would be another 20 years if they live till they're 80. Again, you're paying them more in retirement than you ever paid them for actually working. And it's unsustainable. So if the market takes a dive, who cares? They still get the same benefit no matter what, and the city or the state has to pony up more money to pay for that. That's what
money, right. And as you know, it's money we don't have that
Right.
they're promising. It's an unfunded mandate. The state must pay.
unfunded liability, right? Which they didn't even carry in their budgets until Morlock and a bunch of other people raised such a stunt.
Oh yeah,
Think
Morlock
about
was great. Yeah, and they
can
don't
do it.
want to be examined, and that's what Republicans should do. Republicans should examine what's going on and talk about it, reveal the facts. The facts are terrible things to waste. And
So
yeah,
So you can sit there and look at this chart that we have on the screen. We have 4/10% in our population group. That's if you're looking at the screen, that's the blue line that's kind of flat there. So we have 0.4% population growth, and frankly, most of that is illegal immigrant growth
yeah,
because all the citizens that earn money have moved out of the state. So our population's been flat, even though there's been a huge exodus of people. There's still a lot of illegal immigrants coming into California, so the population has stayed basically flat over 10 years.
yeah,
But you can see the red graph, we've added 24.5%, call it 25%. We've added a quarter more state employees.
yeah.
We're getting lousier service. Is there anything anywhere in government, anywhere that you can say is better now than it was 10 years ago?
Yeah, well, actually, that graph, it doesn't show county or city employees or federal employees, does it?
Right. This is only state of California employees.
Yeah, and you know,
So are we getting any better service? Are the potholes filled faster? Are they expanding roadways more? Are they building state parks
You're
and building
basically
more
saying-
of them?
yeah, it's bureaucrats. More bureaucrats have been hired, and for the schools, it's not more teachers. It's more bureaucrats that the teachers unions insist that there be bureaucrats
Yeah,
at every school.
I would challenge
In addition to the
I would
teachers.
challenge anybody. We've got Magdalena online. I would challenge anybody to tell me one thing in state government that's better now than it was 10 years ago. And you would think that there'd be something with all these new employees that would be better. Yeah, it's like I'm waiting. Yeah, I don't hear anything either. So I'm going to hit a couple of other fraud items as we go down here.
You can talk to Magdalena. Say Magdalena's on.
Magdalena is one of our chat members, and she's
Oh, good.
she's up in San Francisco, and she rebroadcasts on KPSF,
Oh,
which is
nice.
really nice of her. So we have a White House fraud task force that's led by JD Vance, and they've uncovered
Yeah.
they've just announced this. They've only been doing this for probably 60 days. They just announced 221 fraudulent hospice healthcare providers in California, as he refers to it as the Operation Never Say Die begins. leave it to Trump to come up with a great sales pitch and name. So
Yeah.
that task force, led by J.D. Vance, revealed on Thursday last week that there were they suspended 221 fraudulent hospice and healthcare providers. And
I think that's just LA County. That was just in LA County.
I
That's what's
I think you're
extraordinary.
right. There were, by some of these investigations by Nick Shirley and Christopher Rufo, I wouldn't be surprised if all of those were in the single building that they, did their
Yeah.
walk through and they have all these different names on all these different doors, but nobody's in the building.
Yeah.
And it said that massive progress comes after just 70 providers were initially suspended last week, but it's not stopping there. They expect the number to grow much higher in the coming weeks, said a senior administration official. Very cool, huh? He's finally getting we're getting some response. It's doing it in spite of the California government. But hey, you know who our AG is, right?
Mr. Bonta?
Our supposed attorney general, the top cop in California, the guy that's supposed to be chasing down bad guys and putting them in jail so that they can't hurt us, which he doesn't. He spends all his time suing Trump. He's taking credit for coming down on the major hospice fraud scheme, and he's claiming $267 million fraudulently billed to California using stolen identities. 21 suspects, 14 fraudulent hospice companies. All of it done by the vice president and his task force. But Bonds is out there taking credit like any good government official should. He is a worthless, empty suit. I can't say anything good about our attorney general. Of course, I probably shouldn't say so many bad things. He may decide, let's investigate Scott. Okay.
That's how they work, man.
SoCal, Orange County man, pleads guilty to submitting 200. This is one guy. 270 million in fraudulent claims to Medicare in the last 11 months.
Man.
I mean, hello, one guy. And the
Very
vice
tempting.
president was able to find it in 60 days. Where's Governor Newsom been since 2019 when he first came into office? Or perhaps when he was in
Yeah.
lieutenant governor's office for 8 years before that.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Governor Newsom embroiled in a national fraud scandal. Thus far, much of the coverage focused on alleged schemes related to unemployment insurance and hospice care. And this is exclusive investigation. This is by Gateway Pundit. In this exclusive home services support program, this is the $30 billion fraud magnet. They came up with this system. They call it In-Home Supportive Services Program, IHSS, and it pays family members and other individuals to provide home-based care for the elderly and disabled at a cost of nearly $30 billion per year. Okay, so the concept's good. Your grandma needs hospice care or needs long-term care. She doesn't have any money. The amount of money that she gets in Medicare and Medicaid for that, Social Security, won't cover it. Let's say you and your wife are working and you can't afford to quit because you guys have bills to pay.
Yeah.
So what they allow you to do is take grandma, bring her home. Your wife could then maybe be the caregiver for grandma, and the state would pay your wife. So your wife still maintains income, but now you're able to take care of your loved one better than any kind of a
Nursing
hospice
home.
or
Oh,
some sort of a park the body till they die type of a home care stuff. So you get, the concept is not bad, right? It enables that to happen. The problem is that they don't do any checks. They don't back check. They don't know that grandma's still alive. They don't even know if you have a grandma. If you submit the right paperwork, you get the money. And then the state and the bureaucrats can brag, we're helping 500,000 people or whatever the number is. And
Yep.
at a cost of 30 billion per year, we're saving the state. It would cost them $60 billion a year if they were institutionalized. We're only paying 30. And the problem is the money's not going to where it needs to go or where they say it's going to go. It's being stolen.
That's
And
what's
it's
happening.
right underneath his nose, and he's not able to do anything about it because he's an incompetent boob.
He's a
So what-
Democrat. He's a bureaucrat.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm being redundant. Yeah, he's a Democrat. He's an incompetent boob. Yeah, it's the same thing,
Yep.
right?
That's right.
So yeah, but, face it. The Bible talks about. I know. It's just the Bible doesn't give government the responsibility of taking care of our family members.
right.
The Bible, God charges us, family members, to take care of family members. And so, by the way that we're built, by the way that we're wired, by the way that God organized our society and put it together, it's never going to work. The state cannot show compassion,
That's right.
can they? We saw that in COVID-19. They're unable to show compassion. And their way of showing compassion is writing a check. But then they can't even write the check to the right people for the right amount. If we're
Well, there's
going to
no
do
home.
something, say that
Yeah.
again.
There's nobody home in government. And that's what people say, oh, Big Brother loves you. I want the government to take care of me. I'll get a good job and then I'll get a good. There's no one home. It is not a person. And that's the problem that people have. They assign good motives to the government. The government can't have good motives. It is only a machine. And it is those who know how to run the levers that get the best advantage. And unless you have capable and morally upright people in office, you're going to get a lot of hellish stuff. And that's why we have what we have now in California. I'm very thankful, Scott. Many people are waking up. Many people are waking up. I was at the county Republican. I'm a member of the county Republican Party, and we had a meeting last night, and there were people.
That's Sacramento County? Which county?
Yeah, that was Sacramento County. And
Okay.
we have people that are walking precincts, and they said, well, I want to sign up. I want to come to your meeting. There was two guys that came to the meeting. They were just local people. Somebody had walked to register them. They said, well, I want to come to the local Republican Party because I'm fed up. Normal people cannot believe the abuses of government, and they are fed up with what's happening. We need to avail of it. We need to speak what's true and help people come to an understanding of what's gone on. And that's why what you're doing, Scott, is so important. Radio Free California is getting facts out that won't go out any other way. You're not going to have the LA Times talking the way you're talking. They're not going to do the exposés that must be done and then commented on. And then we need legislators like Bill Asaley, but others. We got a handful of Republicans left in California, but they need to, you might say, earn their wings. They need to keep flying and speaking the truth. And the tendency is, I know because I've met some, and we lovingly call them rhinos, Scott, you and I, but they like having the office then, and they've become part of the state, and it's a nice, comfy system. And they're told by others, well, just don't make a big thing about it. Just let it go. And if they're men and women of conscience, they can't let it go. And so we need to elect people like that at every level, from school board, city council, supervisor, assembly, state senate, Congress, all the way up. And the only way we can do that is if you get involved. And I'm so glad that that's your goal, is to get people involved, Scott. So we got to keep at this.
So if you're frustrated, that means you got to get your butt out there to vote.
Yeah.
You can't vote, then we get stuck with who we get stuck with, and don't come crying to me if you don't like it. It's just, that's what is going to happen. So it kind of leads us into this next item, which we talked about a little bit, is that the uh, lawfare. I mean, talk about a rampant program. We just talked about the in-home care thing that's ripe with fraud. California Democrats are planning to provide every one of its $2.5 million illegal aliens, and I'm sure that number is probably half of what it really is. But all those 2.5 million illegal aliens, a free lawyer to fight their deportation. Right? Talk about selective programming and which laws you want to comply with. Every single bit as bad as the Confederate South. The blue states like California are deciding that they don't want to apply immigration laws to them or to their state, and in fact, they're going to provide 2.5 million illegal aliens with a free lawyer, to fight their deportation. They estimate, first of all, the program would be the largest jobs program for Democrat lawyers in history. Its stated stated objective is to grind immigration court system down to a halt, making deportation all but impossible. And it could cost taxpayers $125 billion.
Well, lawyers like that. Lawyers are going to be advocating for that. They like the money. So they want to be part of it.
And I'm sure there won't be any fraud in that program.
No. It's you just submit your bill, and lawyers tend to have very handsomely padded bills. Even nice lawyers I know. But the fact, they get a lot of money, but when the government's writing the checks, they get a lot more. And no, it's beyond belief. And unless people speak up and say, no, this is wrong, and tell their neighbors. As I said, the guys came last night because their neighbors told them about the Republican Party. I said, well, hopefully, see, the good thing is that normal Angelenos, I say, normal Californians, they are looking to the Republican Party for some answers. So we need to have the answers. We need to be willing to say and do what it is we say we believe. So it's astounding. I know that you're looking forward to the Olympics coming up, and California is going to host the Olympics. That's going to be exciting. But
So you heard about the Olympics, right? Fans are looking to buy tickets for the Los Angeles 28 Olympics.
Yeah.
And they're getting hit with a 24% service charge on all the tickets that they buy.
And those tickets are already very expensive. If you have been to an Olympic event, those are expensive tickets.
They can be. I mean, if you're watching North Korea play Jamaica in Twiddlywinks, maybe those tickets aren't so much, but a lot of the other tickets are. But Ticketmaster, all these other private industries, they charge what, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, depending on the amount of the ticket and things like that. Sometimes they just charge a flat fee of $5, $10, $15 per transaction, regardless as to the dollar amount of the ticket. But LA is charging 24% service fee. I mean, talk about Karen Bass, the mayor of LA, is screwed the pooch again, and they're being absolutely ridiculous. They're inept. They cannot make the trains run on time.
No, and there's been no rebuilding of Malibu. There's been no. It's
Malibu, Pacific Palisades. Yeah, none of that is happening. They've issued, half a dozen permits. They've got 4 houses that have been completed, and those were all permitted prior to the fire. Drawings were submitted, and in fact, the fire ended up doing the demo work for the developer. Okay, so we're moving on to gas prices, and we only have about 6 minutes left.
Okay.
Gas prices are getting more and more ridiculous. I filled up today. I found a place for $5.40 a gallon. I thought, oh man, I got a deal. Everything else I was driving around, it was tough to find things less than $6.
Yeah.
And if you want diesel, crazy. I saw diesel, this sign behind me, $9.99. I saw it for 9 something. It wasn't 9.99. But
Well,
this is LA. This isn't like, Barstow or the middle of nowhere. This is LA, and they were charging over $8 a gallon for diesel.
yeah,
And
and
I've got the traffic up. Go ahead.
yeah, and you know this, the media wants to blame Trump right now because of the Strait of Hormuz. And that has some impact, but not on us. That has impact on the world's prices of oil, specifically here in California. Governor Newsom, and again, his laser eyes are locked on me as I'm looking at it. Governor Newsom has driven the refiners out of California. We need special fuel because of the regulations. And now Valero is about to close up shop. They're one of the last. Chevron's left. These are the people who produce the oil, and they won't let us drill for oil in California. Bakersfield and Kern County used to be replete with oil rigs. They can't drill there anymore. We import oil, and then we have to refine it here for special fuel because of the regulations. And the refiners have said, we can't do this anymore. We're leaving the state. So I believe it's
Right.
Valero is packing up at the end of this month. It's
They're in a couple of weeks, they're going to be gone. They're going to shut it down, and they're predicting that San Francisco is going to run out of jet fuel and diesel once Valero shuts their Benicia facility and refinery in a couple of weeks here. And you can see by this graphic, we have a state excise tax, 61 cents a gallon,
yeah,
which is basically a state gas tax.
yeah,
You have the 18 cents a gallon that the feds have on it, that's nationwide. You
yeah.
have a low carbon fuel standard tax. So what that is they're trying to get you out of your guzzling car and get you in an
Yep.
electric car. Cap and invest, that's where we talked about in past shows where the refineries put pollution into the air, put greenhouse gases into the air. And so every year, the CARB board, the California Air Resources Board, lowers the amount of credits that are available for purchase. And
Uh,
so the price of those credits then go up. But the refineries can't do anything more about it. There's no new technology that they can implement at this time that will eliminate their carbon footprint, so to speak. And they actually get hit, from what I understand, because they're selling a carbon-based product. They get hit for the fact that it's going to go into our engines and come out our tailpipe because they can't charge us for it, so they charge the fuel provider. So that's 16 cents and 24 cents a gallon at this point, 40 cents a gallon. State and local sales tax, this is wrong. They got it indicated as 10 cents a gallon. That's not correct. It is in LA 9.75%. Let's call it 10 cents per dollar. So when that price of gas is $6, you're paying 60 cents a gallon
right.
in state sales tax. So of that $6, 60 cents is state sales tax. So let's add all this up. We have let's leave the federal side out of it. From the state side only, we've got $1.01 plus the 60 cents. We got $1.61, and then the underground state storage tax, $1.63 a gallon if you're paying $6 a gallon. $1.63 goes to California. The refineries don't make that much. The gas station that's pumping it and providing that service, they don't get that much per gallon. Only the state of California that gets that kind of margin.
Yeah.
The refineries, their margin is tiny. We're talking, 10 cents on the gallon, or 20 cents on the gallon, not $1.20 like the state is getting. And like you said, they could open up offshore drilling. And by the way, Trump has opened up, at least for one permittee, the ability to do that offshore. There's so much oil in California, we could be a net exporter of oil. Instead, we're importing our oil. And then you've got these dirty, polluting ships that have to carry that oil across oceans, risking spills and damages to bring it here. We're in effect offshoring our pollution. We haven't reduced our need for oil. We've just required it to come in from offshore. And so, do you think that in the Philippines or in other oil-rich areas, they've got the same pollution standards that we do, and that they're not putting greenhouse gases into the air? because they're being careful like we are required to do? I don't think so.
Right.
So we get a high price of gas, and we're offshoring our pollution. We're not putting less pollution into the air. Give me a break. So, Brian, tell me about your organization.
Okay. Yeah. Well, California Pro Life is a state affiliate of National Right to Life. And we work with people from across the board. You don't have to be religious. Most of our folks do come from a place of faith. But the bottom line, it's a self evident truth. That's not a human being because I have dubbed it a human being and my personal faith says it is. That is objectively a human baby. And the Hippocratic Oath, by the way, doctors swear they will never kill another human being, even if asked, and in like manner, they will not cause a human abortion because that is a vulnerable human life. So, in every abortion, the doctor has to violate the Hippocratic Oath. That has carried great repercussions for the medical profession because there's no longer an objective oath guiding them. And that's why doctors now are free. If, hey, they can cut off the penis of a little boy. If he wants to be a little, they'll turn him into a little girl. They can violate the laws of nature. And it should be more than any other profession. It should be the physician who understands the laws of nature and how human bodies really are supposed to work. But that's been lost. And so now doctors are doing a lot of bizarre things, but it's because in 1973, the Hippocratic Oath was thrown out.
So the do no harm part of the Hippocratic Oath, now doctors are allowed to do harm. And in this example, it's
If
killing a
they,
baby.
yeah, specifically, and people don't realize this, it's actually said in Doe v. Bolton, which was the companion decision to Roe v. Wade, it's up to the doctor's opinion. They can use their own opinion. There's no objective standard to hold them accountable. Their opinion, they are, as the old nurses joke, MD stands for minor deity. So if they decide they're going to do this, they're going to do it. And that oath is what has made Western civilization respect the innocent vulnerable when they're most vulnerable. That's what defines us as a civilization, that we will protect those who are innocent and need protection. That's the hallmark of Western civilization. 2 nights ago, the president said he was going to bring a different civilization to an end. And I know why he said it, because that culture, and I know Persians, they want the end of the Islamic regime. They want it, they want to get their country back. But it is a new civilization that took it over, an evil civilization that will kill the innocent. And if you are not going to go along with them, they'll behead you. They do not have respect.
And they've killed a lot of their own citizens. So CaliforniaProLife.org, I've got it on the bottom of the screen. That's your website.
That's
so
it.
If people want to get involved and help, can they go there, donate money, volunteer to do things?
Yes, definitely. There's lots to be done. And right now we are focused on elections and encouraging people to find out what their local candidates for local office, school board, city council. We've got a questionnaire that you can give to local candidates. It's very straightforward. And it is about that question.
And people need to realize that, first of all, we all need to get involved or we're going to get the government we deserve, which is going to be ugly. And if you're going to get involved, Brian has got a great way for you to help, because all of these people that we talk about that are assemblymen and state senators and, governor, they all started out, most of them, as a local city councilman or water board member.
Yeah.
And so if you guys, meaning us, we on the street, can help Brian, and he's done all the hard work of putting a questionnaire together, go and meet and have coffee with your city council candidates that are going to be coming up here in November, water board candidates, etc., and ask them, gee, would you fill out this application? I want to promote you and on the pro-life circles, but it's also, we want to get the word out that, where you stand on these issues. And frankly, what happens, right? A lot of times you fill out this questionnaire and you find out they're not quite as conservative as you thought they were, because all of a sudden they don't believe in preserving life, whether it be grandma or the unborn baby. So this is a way to try and get the good candidates separated from the bad candidates right from the beginning of their political lives.
That's right. That's what we want to do, and you know that very well, Scott. You've run the race, and you've paid the price. You know that it's a tough challenge, but it's really what we're all called to as American citizens.
Well, Brian, we're going to close out here. Thank you so much for taking the time and joining us. You bring a wealth of insight, both from the pro-life side and circles, as well as, unfortunately for you, perhaps living in Sacramento and knowing a little bit about the games that are played out there.
Yeah.
And we'll have to do it again sometime. Thanks so much
Okay,
for joining
Scott.
us.
Be a pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Take care, Brian.
Bye-bye.
So that was Brian Johnston. He is the guy in charge over there at the California Pro-Life Council. And we are California Free Radio. Kurt and Mike were out on assignment this week, and they hopefully will come back and tell us all the good stuff that they found out. And they'll be back here on next Thursday. And thank you guys so much for listening to California Free Radio, where we try to bring the truth out from behind the blue curtain.